Hello everyone, welcome to my vlog. So it's Thursday and I hope you guys have a fantastic week. So today's vlog I would like to dedicate it and talk about several different items and gadgets I'm using constantly for my work, but I deeply believe I never had a chance to talk about them on my vlog. So I actually just went through some of those things and I actually picked, in my opinion, the most important ones which really save my life sometimes, and I deeply believe that sometimes photographers forget to pick them up or have them on them during the shoots, and I just decided to make a little kind of list with some of those things, and hopefully some of those items you guys can pick it up and use for your work, and I can guarantee you that some of those things can really save your life. So the item number one I want to talk about it is cosmetic powder, and I picked that from my wife, and I'm not gonna say how many times this item saved my life, especially when I shoot corporate stuff and I have, guys who are sweaty and they have a lot of sweat on their foreheads or face. This thing is just like a miracle, and I'm not gonna tell you how many times I've been using this. It's kind of crazy, but also what it does, saves so much time with your post-production, because I'm sure you guys know whenever it comes to editing, some glossy face or things which, they don't look good, this little thing can kind of save this thing beforehand, and like you guys gonna be thanking yourself that you've used that, because this definitely save your time and post-production and all this stuff. So if you don't know which one to use it, I think the best way is go to any cosmetic store, and then you're basically asking for the matting powder. And I don't have even like any kind of fancy brand one. My wife actually told me this is pretty good. I've been using this for several years and I found this is really useful. And as I said, if you don't have it, pick it up, and I'm sure this is gonna save your life many times. Okay, so the item number one I want to talk about it. I know it's sometimes gonna sound kind of crazy for you guys, but I want to talk about cleaning kit. A lot of photographers, they don't have that, they don't use that, and sometimes this whole thing might also turn into disaster. I see all the time photographers cleaning their lenses with their t-shirt, some weird fabrics or whatever they have handy to clean up the lens. And I'm not gonna say how many times I've been doing that, but at some point I got so actually fed up with this because I just ruined a couple of my photo shoots. And what happened was, I had to do a lot of stuff in post-production. I have to, use and clean up some of those smudges and stuff like that. And, I think it's important to have something professional, something which is gonna clean your lenses really well. Also with this kit, which wasn't even more expensive, also has kind of like a liquid and then some kind of like things to clean up your sensor, and that's also is highly recommended to once in a while. If you're not sure how to do it, I'm not saying you should do it yourself. You can send that off to Canon or Nikon or whatever camera you're using service to do that for you, but I've been doing this for myself, and this kit works really well. Okay, so item number three I want to talk about it is the color checker. And this is something which I also use on the daily basis. Whenever I shoot in locations where I have tons of different lighting temperatures and I'm not sure about the white balance, this thing can be also a saver. It's quite expensive because this is the brand one, and I paid quite a bit. I think even cost me over $100, but I think it's called Passport color checker. There's some other ones which are not branded and a little bit cheaper, but this one is really good, and I highly recommend it if you are especially starting off and then you're not sure about a white balance and you want to have all this things done correctly. This thing works as a charm. I'm not gonna go into how to use it. There's a lot of stuff online where you guys can find, but this little item can really save your life sometimes, especially as I said, when you're shooting in the locations where you're not sure about the lighting and you want to make sure that you've done this work properly. So I would highly recommend it to purchase some of those stuff. Okay, so item number 3 is this little grid. I'm sure I've talked about it before, but not to that extent. But this is mostly for photographers who are shooting speed lights. So this little grid kind of helps you to have a little bit more direct light. There's 2 different grids inside, and I can show you right now how this works. So there's one here and there's another one over here. And then you can just pick based on whatever you want to use. And I use this for 2 things. One of them is the hair light, but most of the time I'm using this for lighting up my background. So if you don't want to have, I would say, light spill all over the place, and you want to have more control over like how your background or hair light is lit, this little thingy can really help you. And it was really cheap. I think I paid like $30 for it. And I found it's really useful. So if you're shooting speed lights, I would definitely recommend to purchase this, because that's gonna really help with your control of the light, and basically just making sure that you don't have spill over the background light. Okay, so the next item, I'm sure this one is going to be more familiar. I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to talk a little bit about color gels. I touched some of those stuff in my previous vlogs, but this is also really useful. There's tons of different I didn't pull this the right one, sorry. There's tons of them. I think there's 47 different color gels, and again, if you're using speed lights and sometimes you're going to locations which are really boring, then those gels, they can be very helpful. And I'm sure most of you guys who are following my work, you see that I've been using them all the time, because they add so much to the headshots, and then they add so much to the background that if you don't have those, I would highly recommend it. Again, you can buy them on Amazon. They're fairly cheap. I think they're $30-something, and you can basically do some magic during your photo shoots. People are always appreciated if you can add some colors to the work. Again, I found them very useful, and I highly recommend them to have them with you guys, because sometimes they can really save your life. Plus, they definitely add something special to your work. Okay, so the next item I want to talk about it, and I know you guys are gonna probably laugh at this. This is this little printer, and basically what it is, I actually can print and label some of those stuff, and I'm sure some of you guys are gonna say like, what the hell are you talking about? So I really like to be organized. So all my batteries, for example, they all labeled. They have all numbers. I know which battery I'm using and which battery needs to be recharged. The same comes down to all my triggers. They're all labeled. All my hard drives, everything what I've been using is labeled. And I know that might sound funny for some of you guys, but I found, especially when you do a lot of work and you do a lot of stuff, to know what you're using, what has to be recharged, how to even place some of those things. This little printer can help you to organize your work. And I highly recommend it to do that, especially when like you have so much equipment and you have so many batteries, you have so many different things. To have everything kind of organized and labeled, and then you're gonna know exactly what you're using, when you're using, and what has to be kind of like, as I said, the recharger, like whatever you're doing with this, this little item can really help you to organize, and I highly recommend it. I've been using this for many years. Even when I was shooting weddings, like I was labeling everything. And maybe some people are gonna say like it's crazy, but I found that definitely speed up your work. You organized, you know what do you have, you know exactly everything, what it's placed. So especially if you're a professional photographer. Being organized, I found, is one of the key components to be successful, because that definitely speed up your work, and yeah, you definitely gonna have everything under control. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about it, and this is again for people who are basically using speed lights. So this is like a wristband, and I talk about it once, I guess. So basically I'm using them for my speed lights. So as you guys can see, there's 3 of them here right now, but usually I have 1. And basically what it is, it has actually two things which it does. First one, this rubber protects my speed light whenever I actually mount to you know, whenever I mount the speed light to the softbox, there's a little grip which holds it, and I basically, you know, like back in the days when I didn't use that, like all my lights and speed lights were kind of really wrecked all over this area, because, you know, like you have to put the grip on it and kind of make it tight. So this little thingy definitely protects it. On the top of that, you know, I have different also numbers and you know, different colors, so I also know exactly which speed lights I'm using, and it definitely helps me with being organized. So that's kind of there's a 2 things which I'm using this for. So highly recommended. Usually they're for free whenever you go to the charity or any place which, you know, have some kind of festivity. People actually just giving them away, and you know, you can pick them up and you know, put them on the speed light, and you will see they work really well, and they protect the speed light, plus, you know, makes you more organized. Okay, there's a couple more items. So the next one, and I'm sure you guys are gonna laugh at this, is sandbags. And this is something which is kind of interesting, because people usually buy them when something happens. They never buy them beforehand. Maybe this is my experience, I'm not sure, but whenever you know, I would say shit happened to me and I lost a couple lights, then I decided to actually pick them up and use them all the time. And I always carry them with me, especially when I shoot outside. You know, they were fairly cheap. I bought them on Amazon again, and you just fill them up with sand, and they really protect, you know, your lights from falling down. And also I use smaller ones whenever I shoot commercial work, even inside, just to make sure that you know, my lights are stable, and you know, if someone trips them or something like that, then, you know, there's a little bit more protection, because there's nothing worse than losing the light on the shoot, or, you know, when the light falls down. Again, especially outside, I don't shoot a lot of like outside. Calgary is fairly windy, and it sometimes might be disaster, but whenever I do, like I have like I think 8 of them, and I just secure my poles with you know, those sandbags, and they work really well. And you know, I'm sure nothing's gonna happen to you guys, because I know, as I said, usually people kind of buy them when something happens, and, you know, they lose some equipment, and they're like, okay, you know, I should have them. So make sure you pick them up. They're cheap. You know, they take a little bit of weight, and you have to carry them around. That's the problem. But as I said, it's sometimes it's better to you know, be safe than sorry. Okay, and the last gadget, and I think this is going to be the most coolest one. I don't know if you guys heard about it. It's called Camranger. So this little device, I really like it, because what happens is basically this device helps you to create a kind of like Wi-Fi, and you can connect your camera to either your phone, your iPod, or your computer. So if you don't shoot tethered, that's something which is kind of like works as a tether, but it's a Wi-Fi. And I don't use that quite often. I use them most of the time whenever I shoot commercial work with big groups, where I can actually hook this up, and you know, the files, they're getting transferred straight to my computer. It's something which I actually found out about through like f-stoppers, and I purchased it. It was quite pricey item. I think it was about $200. I don't know how much, but that was several years ago. So probably right now they're a little bit cheaper. But I found that, you know, especially for commercial work and things where, you know, like you want to have those files transferred right away, or you want to have your client to see the images throughout a shoot, this thing works perfect. So I highly recommend it. I use quite often, you know, as I said, for my commercial work or my, like, you know, corporate stuff, but it's really cool. I'm not going to give you more details on that. You guys can Google this. It's called Camranger. And also that comes with application, an app for your phone, your iPod, your computer, and it's really easy to hook it up, and you can actually just not only see what you're doing during the shoot, you can transfer the files right away. It's pretty cool. Okay, so that would be everything. I hope some of those stuff was useful for you guys. I know I've been just jumping through many different things, but I found that those items and those gadgets are, you know, the most useful ones. So if you guys would like to add something to it, or you guys have some gadgets which you guys constantly use and they think they're really important and they really help you with your work, please feel free to share them with you, and I would love to hear some of those things from you guys. So I hope that wasn't too long. I know I was just bragging about this for quite a bit, so I will be looking forward to hear from you. I would like to wish you guys a fantastic week, and stay tuned for the next vlog, and I'll chat with you guys very soon. Bye bye.